For today's mobility session, you'll need a foam roller to start. And if you have a nice small lacrosse ball or some sort of really firm ball, that's going to come in handy for I'm going to show you a couple of releases that you can do with a ball like this. If you don't have one, just go to this local sporting goods store and you can find a lacrosse ball for really cheap. It might be slightly bigger than that, but that works fine. This one is by Trigger Point, which specifically does mobility gear like foam rollers and massage balls and that sort of thing. Okay, let's start with our foam roller down on the mat. And we're going to split up today's mobility in two segments. We're going to spend the first half working on our hips specifically, and the second half working on our shoulders and upper back. Okay? Foam roller, we're just going to sit down like we normally do, kind of leaning to one side, tip those knees sideways, and roll until you find a spot that's a little spicy. Gonna hold there for a breath or two. And try to release. Once it feels like it's released a little bit, give it a couple of rocks and find one more spot. Good. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Give it a couple of rocks. Let's find a couple of spots on the other side. Shift your hips and your knees to the other side. Roll down on that foam roller until you find a good spot. Ooh, those are really tender for me today, which is interesting because I overdid it over the weekend and then had a pretty light beginning to the week with exercise, but they are still revved up. Give it a couple of rocks and switch, find another spot. And a couple of rocks. Good. Next up, we're going to work on our groin, which means we're going to get this foam roller, the edge of it, right into this soft tissue that's between our hip bone and our pubic bone. So you're going to find kind of halfway between there, and you're going to lie down on the mat. And let's practice a couple of nice relaxing breaths while we're here. You want to relax as much as possible. Breathing in through your nose, holding for a breath or two, and then exhaling very slowly through the mouth. Let's do 2 more breaths like that. In through the nose, holding, and a slow exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In through the nose. And hold it. And exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Come on up and switch sides. Same thing. We're going to get the other end of our foam roller into that other hip flexor area. Position your foam roller and lie back down. Good, let's do 3 nice, big, deep breaths here. In through the nose. Hold it. And out through the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In through the nose. Hold it. And out through the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last breath in through the nose. Holding. And out through the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Okay, next up we're going to roll out just quickly our inner groin, our inner thigh or groin area. We're going to do that by lying down with one knee bent and the other knee back straight. And we're going to find midway between our knee and our hip. and roll into that groin spot and out. Let's just do 4 more of those. Last 3, 2, and 1. Release, switch it to the other side. Foam roller comes down to the mat. Other leg straightens out long. And your opposite leg is going to come up onto that foam roller. And we're just going to roll on top of it onto our groin. Back and forth 4 more times. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. We are finished with the foam roller for now, so put that out of the way. Next up, we're going to do a new version of the hip presses that we've been doing. So same idea, we're just trying to open up everything on the front of our hips. But with this one, we're also going to, while we're opening up the front of our hips, we're going to work on engaging our glutes and working with our breathing. So this stretch is called the couch stretch. So it's going to look similar to our hip press, but there are going to be a couple of really key differences. Okay, so we're going to start in the same way as we normally do with our sort of all these angles being at 90 degrees. But this time, instead of just pressing into it kind of passively and not paying attention to what the rest of our body's doing, we are instead going to stay upright. We're going to tuck our hips under and squeeze our butt. Okay, you can actually poke it, make sure that you're actually squeezing it. And you should instantly feel a bit of a stretch through that front thigh and into the hip. If you don't, you can do a very slight nudge forward, squeeze that butt. We're just holding this squeeze the whole time. And we're going to stay here for a couple of minutes. I'm going to work you through a couple of Kelly's bits of breath work. So for this, we're going to make sure that we're keeping our ribs down. We're not arching our back in any way, but we're keeping a nice neutral spine, hips tucked under, ribs down, butts on. And we're going to take 4 seconds to breathe in. Then we're going to hold our breath for 4 seconds. And then we're going to do an 8-second exhale. So a little more than what we've just done for warm up. You're going to try your best to get through 3 rounds of this kind of breath, all while holding this position. Squeeze those butts. All right, let's breathe in for 4 through the nose. Hold it. 3, 4, and exhale super slowly through the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose. Hold it. And exhale super slowly. I'll count it out. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more breath like that. Inhale through the nose. Hold it. Are your butts still on? Exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's release everything. So if you have time for nothing else in your mobility practice, try to do that couch stretch for 3 to 5 minutes a day on each side, and it will make a world of difference, especially if you spend a lot of time sitting, working on your computer, riding your bicycle, or in your car. All right, opposite side. So we've still got our 90, 90, 90. We're going to tuck our hips under, make sure our back is not arched. We're going to squeeze our glutes. You can poke them, give them a poke, make sure that they're working. And we're going to make sure our ribs are down. And we're going to start some breath work. We're going to do 4 full cycles this time because I'm not going to talk so much. Breathing in through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Holding your breath. 3, 2, 1. And exhaling for 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I totally forgot 6. That's okay. Inhale through the nose. exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. But still on. 2 and 1. Last breath in through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale slowly. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Good. Last couple of things we're going to do for hips. Let's lie down on the mat. We're going to start with a hamstring stretch. So you can have both knees bent, and then you're going to bring one leg up a little bit, clasp both hands behind that thigh on your hamstrings. And we're going to try to flex our foot and extend the knee as close to straight as we can get. We're going to actually pulse into it. And at the same time that we're stretching our hamstrings, the back of our legs, our upper legs, we're going to also be firing these quads and trying to flex them. So release and flex and release and flex. Release and flex. 2 more of those. Release and flex. Release and flex. Good. Release that leg all together. Let's get to the other side, grabbing behind your hamstrings. We're going to stretch that foot up to the sky, bring our toes down to our face, and release. Now we're going to fire those quads. Flex the front of your leg, relax the back of your leg, and release. This is called an active, isolated stretch because we're firing the opposing muscle to the one that we're trying to release. Another great way to do this, we're just flexing and releasing here as I'm talking. Another great way to do this is actually with a rope that you put around the arch of your foot and you hold both ends of it, either in one hand or in 2 hands. Let's give it 2 more press and flex. Release and press and flex and release. Good. Let's go back to that first leg and we're going to bend the knee. We're going to tip it sideways, so we're looking at the inside of our ankle. And we're going to bring the other leg up behind that ankle, thread our hands through on that bottom leg, and sit back. So this is a pigeon stretch, as it's sometimes called, or a figure 4 stretch. And we're trying to just relax our upper body while we feel that great stretch through our outer hip. Holding for another 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Switch legs. Now we've got the opposite leg coming with your ankle towards your face, the other ankle. Other leg comes up and behind. And grab behind that leg and pull. Just hanging out here and breathing for about 20 seconds total. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Good. Last thing we're going to do, I misspoke. We've got 2 more things to do here. We're going to come back into the hip bridge position. So we've got our backs lying down on the mat. We're going to put our feet together and we're going to let our legs splay out to the side. So this is called a butterfly legs, and we're going to press up into a hip bridge. Now, I want you to be very careful that you're not letting your ribs pop up and you're not letting your hips tilt backwards. So we're going to tuck our tailbone under, we're going to lift up, and we're going to keep these ribs in place as we do our hip bridge before we lower back down. Good, keeping this abdominal brace, keeping that hip tilt lift. Hold for a breath. And release. Ribs stay down and up. Good, holding for a breath and release. Let's do 5 more. Squeeze and lift. And release. 4 more. Squeeze and lift. And release. Tucking those hips up. And release. Last 2. Squeeze and lift. And release. Tuck your tailbone, squeeze and lift. And release. Good, come on up to a sitting position. And this really is the last thing we're gonna do. You're gonna separate your legs and kind of lay them down at roughly a 90-90 position, coming off one edge of the mat. And then we're gonna switch to the other side, 90-90. We're gonna switch again. Now for some of you, this is enough of a stretch as we're sitting back on our hands. If you don't feel any kind of stretch through your hips, you're gonna sit up, hands together, and we're gonna do that same tip from one side to the other. If you still don't feel a stretch, I'm gonna show you a really cool progression. Let me back up so you can see it. And that is, as you come to the other side, we're gonna actually press up into a kneel before we sit back down and switch. Now see if you can do that without hands. Up and press, down we go. Good, no hands. Lift up and back down. Good, think about what are your ribs doing right now and what are your hips doing right now. I don't want to see this big arching happening. Hips tucked under, rib cage stays down, butt is working. I feel like you're gonna hear those words in your sleep if I keep saying them, but that's my goal. Good, one more press to each side. Awesome, our hips are feeling fantastic. Now it's time to switch to upper back. So next up, you're gonna come down onto your mat and we're going to spend some time on each side in the side lying position here. You're gonna lie down with your knees nice and bent, your hips nice and bent, and that shoulder is just under your body. You're gonna place the other hand up on top, stretch your arms out long. And we're gonna reach and then drag our fingertips around the floor all the way to open without releasing our bottom shoulder. Then we're gonna draw it all the way back around. Good, we're gonna do 5 of these. So that was 1, here's number 2, opening and reaching. We're trying not to let our hips open up because that doesn't do us any good. We're keeping our hips stacked. Bring it back. Good, now this time let's see if we can do it without popping our ribs up. Okay, it's going to take a little more control to not pop them up. Nice spine twist and shoulder release. Good, let's do 2 more. Reaching and drawing that big circle. Semicircle. And reaching back and around. Returning to the start. Last one. Really open up that upper spine. Good, same exact thing on the other side. So let's flip over. Knees are bent, hips are bent, but hips are stacked, one right on top of the other. Reaching out that shoulder nice and long. Arms are stacked. Draw your circle. Pardon me. Hands are stacked, one on top of the other, and we're going to reach and draw our circle all the way around. And return back. 2 and 5. 4. 3. If you ever hear that background noise, it's because I'm in my garage right next to our furnace is the spot where we have space for this exercise equipment. So pardon the background noise. Last 2. And finishing back up the way we started. All right, so now we're going to work on something called CARS. My physical therapist actually gave it to me because I tend to have really frozen shoulders and things that are locked in place, and this can just free up those shoulder blades. So think about it like shoulder shrugs, but they're a lot more conscious and deliberate than a normal shoulder shrug, okay? So you're going to stand with your middle finger halfway between your front and back thigh, or if you happen to have seams on your pants, right on the seams. And you're going to draw your shoulder blades up to your ears, then squeeze them together, then press down, and then bring them forward without rolling your upper arm. Shrug them up. Roll them back and squeeze those shoulder blades together. Press down and release them. Let them spread apart. Shoulders come up. Shoulder blades roll around, back and squeeze together. Come back down and release. We're going to go the opposite direction now. We're going to pinch our shoulder blades together at the bottom. Shrug up. Open them up as we roll forward. Press down. Squeeze together. Roll them up. Pull them apart. Bring them down. Pinch together. Roll up. Pull them apart. And come on down. Good, now we're going to do that exact same move, but down on the mat, which will add a little bit of pressure to it. So now we're taking that same CARS motion and we're going to bring it down onto the mat. We're going to get into a quadruped position, so all fours, wrists below our shoulders and knees directly below our hips. And we're going to try that same thing. We're going to sink into our shoulder blades, draw them back and pinch them together. Then we're going to push them down without letting our back arch tremendously. Then we're going to roll around and press away. Then we're going to shrug up to our shoulders and do that again, squeezing together, pressing apart, rolling them up, and back around. One more like this, and then we'll reverse directions. Try to keep those hips tucked under. That's one of the things I struggle with. Good. Now reverse it. We're going to shrug up first, press away, draw those shoulder blades down, let them come back together, and reverse. Bring them up, press them apart, draw them down, push them together, work them up to a shrug, pull apart, draw them down, squeeze together, and come back up. Good. So you're going to take that ball and you're going to bring it up behind you and find the edge of your shoulder blades right near the end. right near the bottom there, that crest. And find a spot that's a little bit sore and hold it for like 20 seconds until it releases. Okay. You can do that several times in several different spots. That's the first release you're going to do. And then let me show you the second one, then I want you to pause the video again and go work through your shoulder blades on one or both sides, wherever you feel tension. The other one you can do is you're going to put the ball kind of right behind your armpit and maybe even move a little bit to the side there. And it should feel pretty tender, okay? Now you're going to move your body so that you're kind of facing directly away from the wall. And you're going to put your arm up against elbows and knuckles to the wall. And then without raising your ribs or changing them, you're going to come to level and then go right back up. And you should feel that ball changing a little bit. The feeling of that changing as you're changing the angle of your arm. And then you could maybe find one or two other spots right behind your armpit there to make this work. It's just a really good release. So now you can pause the video and go try those releases on your own. All right, so I'm going to show you my new favorite release for this first rib upper trap. Sort of neck area that tends to get really tight when we shrug our shoulders or work on our computers for too long. You're going to lie down. I've got this box here, but you can lie against a doorway or any corner in your house. You're going to take the ball and you're going to put it just on the top of your shoulder, right in near your neck. And for me, I can find the spot that's sore just by feel before I even press in. And then you're going to scoot your body up until you're really putting some pressure against the ball and against the wall. And you're just going to hang out here. We're going to hang out for at least 20 seconds until we feel a bit of release. And it can be longer. And we're not wiggling or moving around. We're just holding on that trigger point. Nice and relaxed. Okay. We can do the same release just by moving the ball ever so slightly. I like to move it maybe back and out a little bit and do that same hold for at least 20 seconds. And I'm going to show you two more variations. I'm not going to hold for the entire time because you guys can't really watch a video while you're doing this one anyway. So you can pause after I show you these. Okay, the other thing you can do is while you have it on one of those sore bits, you can actually cross your arm up to that opposite shoulder and see how that kind of changes the angle a little bit. And just hold right there. The third option, so you can just hold it steady, you can cross that arm across your chest, or you can also try to bring some of these these other upper ribs down. I tend to get mine out of whack. So you're going to hold that ball in place, and you're going to find just under your clavicle the first rib you can grab and really dig in there with your fingers. And you're going to actually pull down. That way you're going to dig in and pull down. See if you can release that a little bit, all while we're pressing into this ball against